Hey guys, in our devotion today, it is 1 Corinthians chapter 16, and today we're going to be finishing up the book of Corinthians. But before we take a look at the family today, we are praying for Larry and Joanne Hazlett. So we have a little bit of a transition here in this chapter. Paul wrapped up the last chapter talking about resurrection, talking about these deep theological issues. And here, as he's wrapping up the letter, we see this really quick, kind of drastic transition where he's talking about really practical instructions. And this was common, obviously, for a lot of Paul's letters. In the end, he's giving them specific instructions, things he needs them to do, things he wants them to take care of, relationship stuff, very practical stuff for them. Maybe stuff, that we can look at and apply to ourselves, hopefully. As I read through this today, I think that there was two things that stood out to me. First of all, we see really the role that Paul plays in the church and how he had a place of authority for these churches. Sort of, he talks about being a spiritual father for these churches. And he's giving them these instructions. He talks about putting aside a sacrificial offering that they can send to other churches. He expects them to follow through with this, to set aside and put this in place, set aside money they're going to be sending to these Jewish churches to help out. He talks to them about receiving Christians, such as Timothy, who are going to come and work with them. So he's speaking some things into their life, and I think about the authority that's in the church. God really has put different authority figures in our lives to give us instructions, people to lead us, people that we're to submit to. The pastors of our church are just spiritual leaders, mentors, who we submit to because we know that they are leading us in the Lord in these sort of practical issues. The second thing that stood out to me was really you see the practical workings of the body of Christ here. And Paul is calling the Corinthian church in these specific areas to be the body of Christ. And I think that just speaks to me about the grace of God, because he really finishes up this letter. So much of it has been correcting and so many problems and these deep issues in the church that he's had to deal with. And yet, he's still speaking to them as part of the body of Christ. He is still wanting them to function. And it's important that they play their part in the body of Christ. You see a little bit of Paul's mindset here. It's so business-oriented. He is focusing on spreading the gospel, on the gospel going forth, just in everything that he's talking about. That's his focus, glorifying Christ, sending the gospel out. He needs the Corinthian church to be engaged, to be busy. What can we take from that today? What are we supposed to be doing? What are we submitting to from our spiritual leadership in our church? Are we fulfilling what we've been called to do? Do we even know what we're called to do as the body of Christ? What are we supposed to be working on? I think Paul, I don't think he took a vacation. I don't think sure, we all need time off. I think Paul probably pushed himself to the limit more than anybody else, but I think Paul had that daily mindset of business for the Lord. He was a workman for the Lord, and he motivated the churches. So I think we're all under authority, someone spiritually. And I would say we could ask ourselves that today. What are we called to do, and are we busy doing that? If God spoke something to you through this chapter today, I'd ask that you leave it for us on Facebook, on YouTube. Let's minister to one another, and look forward to starting 2 Corinthians tomorrow. God bless you guys.